I speak 9 languages. The room goes silent. Then the judge laughs. The sound bounces off the courtroom walls, loud, mocking, cruel. Judge Harrison Foster leans back in his chair, wiping tears of amusement from his eyes as he stares at the 24-year-old black woman standing before him in handcuffs. 9 languages, he repeats. Miss Williams, this is a court of law, not a talent show. Kesha Williams doesn't flinch. She stands straight, head high, brown eyes locked on the man who thinks he's already decided her future. 3 days ago, cops dragged her out of her tiny house in the Atlanta project's neighbors filming on their phones. Reporters shouting in her face, her mugshot plastered all over the news. Young woman accused of forging diplomas to scam global corporations as a fake translator. The prosecutor, Marcus Thompson, rises with a slick little smirk. Your Honor, he says, waving a folder, milking it for the cameras. The defendant claims to be fluent in English, Spanish, French, Mandarin, Arabic, German, Russian, Japanese, and Portuguese. He pauses for effect. Instead, Kesha's voice is calm. It's true, Your Honor. I don't have college degrees, she says, but I haven't lied about what I can do. Judge Foster's amusement curdles into irritation. Miss Williams, he sighs, we have evidence you charged thousands for work you clearly weren't qualified to do. Don't make this worse. Admit what you did. Take a plea deal and stop embarrassing yourself. In the front row, defense attorney Dr. Elena Rodriguez clenches her jaw. The air shifts. The chuckles die. Even the prosecutor stiffens. Because everyone heard it. No dog whistles, no code words. Just raw racism live on the record. Kesha doesn't flinch. Her eyes narrow just a bit. It's a look she's worn her whole life when teachers assumed she cheated, when employers assumed she was lying, when people shook their heads at what was statistically unlikely. Your Honor, she says softly. He slams the papers onto the table like a mic drop. This isn't just fraud, it's sabotage. Kesha listens. No panic, no surprise. Just sadness. Judge Foster puts on his concerned father voice. Miss Williams, he says, you have a chance to admit your mistakes. If you keep this act going, no one can help you. That's when she smiles. Not broken, not desperate, knowing. Your Honor, she asks quietly, may I ask the prosecutor a question? Thompson frowns. What question? Kesha turns to him. Global tech, she says. When did they decide my translation was incorrect? Before they learned I didn't have a degree? Or after? He blinks. Overruled, Foster snaps. Her background doesn't excuse fraud. I'm not asking for excuses, Kesha says. I'm asking whether this court cares more about what I look like than what I can do. She looks him dead in the eye. You say it's statistically unlikely for someone like me to speak 9 languages. How many people like me do you actually know, Your Honor? Miss Williams, you are testing my patience. I'm not testing anything, she replies. I'm just trying to understand whether justice is blind here, or just blind to people who look like me. I know that girl, she whispers. Years ago, she taught free language classes at a community library. One skinny black teenager showed up every week. Hungry, focused, relentless. A girl named Kesha, who picked up Mandarin like it was music, then begged for French, then German. I believe I have information relevant to this case. Dr. Morrison, this is highly irregular, I understand, Morrison says. But for 30 years, I worked with translators in some of the most sensitive negotiations on earth, and I am personally familiar with the work of Miss Kesha Williams. The prosecutor almost chokes. That's impossible, he snaps. She's a fraud. Morrison opens his briefcase. I have here signed reports from 3 UN missions, he says, all praising her work, not as adequate, as exceptional. Court recesses for 2 hours. They take Kesha to a side room, small, cold, and fluorescent. 3 people are waiting. The first is Mrs. Chun. Kesha, she says, eyes shining, do you remember Mandarin Fridays at the library? Kesha's breath catches. Plastic chairs, broken markers, old textbooks, and a woman who looked her in the eye and said, you are capable. I thought you left the country, Kesha whispers. I did, Mrs. Chun smiles, consulting in China, and everywhere I went, when they asked for a translator, I recommended you. She nods toward the man beside her. He's young, Korean-American, hoodie over a button-down, laptop already open. I'm Daniel Park, he says. Digital security. Mrs. Chun asked me to check the companies that accused you. You're going to want to see this. The third person, a poised black woman in a sharp suit, closes a folder. Diplomatic Solutions keeps 2 lists, he says. A premium list, white, Ivy League, expensive, and a diversity list, everyone else. Guess which one they quietly shuffled you into before claiming your Arabic was too emotional for formal use. Dr. Johnson lays out more pages. International Aid Foundation, she says. You translated testimonials from refugees, raw, powerful, human. They replaced your version with something written by a tenured professor that sounded like a research paper. The UN rejected that version for lacking authenticity. Kesha feels the anger settle into something dense and sharp. And I'm the one on trial, she murmurs. Oh, it gets deeper, Mrs. Chun says softly. She hands Kesha an envelope. Letters, emails, handwritten notes. From 12 other translators, all saying the same things. They told me my work didn't fit their standards, but they couldn't explain why. Clients loved my translations until they saw I was self-taught. They said my background didn't align with their brand. Dr. Johnson leans in. Today, we're not just clearing your name, she says. Based on independent evaluations, he says, laser pointer sweeping across data. Translations by freelancers from poor neighborhoods without degrees are frequently rated equal or better than those from elite graduates. Another slide. Yet, he continues, these same freelancers are rejected at more than 3 times the rate, not because their work is worse, but because someone has decided their existence doesn't look professional enough. Then Daniel steps up. He reads from Global Tech's internal chat logs. Her translation is excellent. We can't set that precedent. Say it fails quality review and cut her loose. The courtroom hums like a live wire. Next, an audio file from Diplomatic Solutions. She walks to the center. She looks at the judge. Your Honor, you wanted a demonstration, she says. You'll get one. She takes a breath and switches to Spanish, explaining in perfect detail how she was arrested. Fluent with a local Latin American cadence. No stumbles, no textbook stiffness. She moves into French, summarizing the prosecution's accusations with a dry little joke that makes the French interpreter in the back actually smile. Then Mandarin tone perfect, flowing, no awkwardness, greeting Dr. Morrison, referencing an old proverb about justice and clarity. Arabic next, where she recites a line of poetry about dignity that makes a woman in hijab in the gallery quietly cover her mouth. German sharp, precise, where she breaks down the legal implications of statistically unlikely as a justification for bias. Even if Miss Williams's skills are genuine, he says weakly, that doesn't erase. Mr. Thompson, Kesha says gently, do you speak any of these languages? He hesitates. That's not the point. How did you verify my work? She asks. Did you hire independent experts? Or did you just assume the companies must be right? He can't answer. Because everyone knows the answer. They didn't check her work. They checked her profile. It's not enough. But it's on the record. He has no idea yet that the ethics complaint is already filed, that his statistically unlikely line and his look at her comment are being replayed on loop across the world, that by the end of the year, he'll resign in disgrace. Thompson doesn't know his name is already being pulled in other cases, other defendants of color, other suspicious slam dunk prosecutions. Global Tech, Diplomatic Solutions, and International Aid Foundation have no idea, but millions of people are already boycotting, emailing, and digging into their hiring practices. All because they underestimated one woman from the projects who refused to stay in the box they built for her. Just a tailored blazer and a city skyline behind her. She's in New York now, overseeing teams of translators for the United Nations. Her salary? In a live interview watched around the world, the host asks, the world worships framed diplomas, she says, but paper doesn't make you worthy. Real power, she continues, is taking all the doubt, all the condescension, all the people like you can't do this, and turning it into fuel. She looks into the camera like she's talking to one person. Those companies, that judge, that prosecutor, they all bet I'd break. They bet I'd take the plea, disappear, prove them right. Because you can fake credentials. You can bury evidence. You can twist the story for a while, and you can't stop someone who refuses to accept the limits you put on them. If Kesha's story hits a nerve, if you've ever been underestimated because of where you're from, how you look, or what you don't have, remember this. You don't need their permission to be extraordinary. You just need the patience to let their prejudice expose them, while you quietly prepare your greatest performance. And when it's time, you step into the spotlight, speak in the language they said you'd never learn, and let the truth do the rest.